So definitely take note of my email, and if you have any technical questions about our operation or setup, I'd be happy to connect you with our ground supervisor, who is the one that really is responsible for implementing this, but is also usually the one that I'm not going to be able to get onto a webinar to talk about it. He's usually busy doing the work, not talking about the work. My job is to talk about the work. Just kind of giving you a little bit of background at UW-Whitewater. Now we're in terms of stormwater discharge, we are considered to be an MS4 municipality. We have over 10,000 population. So a lot of the initiatives that we try to drive forward have a lot to do with managing our direct output into our local waterway, which is Whitewater Creek. So one of the initiatives that we started up really on the salt reduction side had to do with our stormwater permitting and really kind of implementing some best practices with our staff. We worked with Fortin Consulting, and I'll post a link to the guide that a lot of you may be familiar with. But this is what we've used as our guideline for making adjustments to our program. But everything kind of starts with a snow removal plan. So we'll really kind of use the snow removal plan as a communication tool to the rest of the campus so they understand what our limitations are, what our priorities are, and really kind of be transparent about how we approach the snow removal process. So the main goal is to make campus accessible each day by 7 a.m. With the first pass, which means usually our crews start up about 2, 3 in the morning. The grounds crew is in our department, facilities planning and management, and they do all the motorized removal. And then typically it's FP&M or other departments on campus that are custodial crews will take care of shoveling, building entrances, stairs, and ramps. So obviously with the college campus, you're looking at quite a bit of focus on sidewalks and parking lots. We only have a couple roadways that we're independently responsible for. The majority of our area, and I'll just kind of throw some stats at you. Yeah, we have 400 acres on campus. We have about a third of that in planting beds that we maintain, about a third of it in turf, and about a third of it is in paved area. And this includes about 53 acres of parking lots and about 300,000 square feet of sidewalks. So the goal is to really make the campus passable for pedestrians just as much as vehicles. Our normal operating range for campus is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Our normal shift range for our grounds crew is 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you can see that there's a little bit of gaps kind of in the later hours for evening snows. If we do an early start, we'll try to let our staff know by 7 p.m. the prior nights. And then typically we just have standby staff members assigned for any kind of events that occur on the fly. And this is particularly for the second shift work. Any ice storms that we have that makes travel very difficult, we have any local staff, really 4 local staff that live in the Whitewater area. One of them handles salting roads, the other do sidewalks. And then when the out-of-town staff arrive, they do a lot more of the hand salting piece. So our salt spreaders, on the note of recalibration, are calibrated frequently every year and multiple times over the season to make sure we're at recommended salt rates. One of the challenges we face with some of the equipment we use is we actually, the manufacturer's calibration doesn't go low enough for what we would like to do. So we end up over applying, particularly on sidewalks. So it's a little bit of a challenge for us to really kind of monitor our overall application rates on those smaller surfaces. Each storm event, we use between 4 and 6.5 tons of rock salt on sidewalks and parking lot drive lanes. And this, of course, depends on ice accumulation. But one of the things we did recently was we started up salt brining operations. So this was training that we had received, and our ground supervisor really embraced it and really kind of leaned into it, which was great. The former ground supervisor, his philosophy was always saving the taxpayer money. Everything that he did was trying to cut costs to save the taxpayer money. So he had this real fine public ethic to him. And it just so happens that a lot of those different activities that he did also align really well with reducing environmental impact and sustainability. So we were often partners on things like this, and the salt brining was something I had suggested to him, and then they just took the ball and ran with it. So we'll do brining within 24 hours of any predicted weather events. Here's a photo on the left of the empty tanks. We use a two-part, two-stage or two-part mixing tank in the shop. We can mix about a 1,050 gallons of brine using about 1.5 tons of rock salt. So that's an average of about 700 gallons a ton. The 23.3% salinity is the target for what you want with your brine. And then we have a few different methods for distributing the brine. We have a couple larger vehicles, dump trucks, flatbed trucks that have mechanical GPS and gravity booms. So, ideally we're using mechanical GPS, but we're still on gravity feed for some of it. You can see the tank sizes, and then Starin Road is the road that basically bisects our campus in the north and south. So one truck covers the north half, one truck covers the south half. And then we use tool cats for all the sidewalk work. We have a number of different attachments for these vehicles, including brooms, snow throwers, and then typical or traditional plows. And then they're loaded up with rock salt dispensers like you see here, as well as brine dispensers. They don't have the brine dispensers on yet. They're really just in the process of mixing for our first storm event this weekend. So you can see that these are pressurized booms, which again really kind of helps us maintain a more even flow rate. The tank sizes and then kind of the areas that they cover are listed here as well. So just to give you a few stats on what we've used, obviously with a campus of our size, we're not really kind of in the same magnitude of a municipality typically, but you can do the math. I was doing some of the math on what Cudahy is getting for pricing. You can see the bulk discounts on salting. We're typically paying $82 a ton for salt at this point. So you can see what the impact was in the 1920 season. We also still do some sand, although we've cut the sand back considerably. The salt sand mix really wasn't something that ended up working for us. We just ended up applying heavy on both. Then calcium chloride for cold weather, particularly harsh cold weather, we have on hand is a mix or a treatment as well. And then you can see our brine total here as well. So this is about the material cost that we've estimated for last year. And then here's a snapshot of all the different usage, so you can get a sense of how variable our salt usage has been. So I tried to summarize this the best I can over on the right, and you can see at least over the course of time that we've been tracking any kind of data, we're usually up in the neighborhood of about 200 tons of salt, and we're seeing our salt totals considerably lower than that. Now, obviously, weather variability is going to affect this quite a bit. But you can also see that we're starting to more carefully track brine, calcium chloride usage, and then some of the sand. And a lot of the sand we really just haven't been using within the last decade. It was primarily the 2000s that we did a lot of sand. For salt use reductions then, you can see here we were doing pre-treatment of rock salt on sidewalks, 2.5 tons, about 4 tons on roadways and parking lots. So if you're looking at our total pricing, it's about $533 per event on material. And then with the brine solution as a pre-treatment, using the salinity rate and mixture rate that we had in the previous slide, we're able to reduce our cost by over half. So, the other benefits, of course, of brining is you get more consistent snow removal once the packing occurs, because it helps prevent adhesion to the sidewalk or the pavement itself. And then, generally we're just using less salt to treat ice accumulation as a result because we have that pre-treatment underneath. So we've been really happy with it. It's a little bit of an experiment, but and I took a picture of the instructions that I had written on the whiteboard downstairs, and it's kind of funny. It looks like it's, gut feeling and instinct comes up a couple times in the instructions, but a lot of it's just kind of mixing, measuring, and getting your salinity right. So some other practices we do on campus, closing stairs to reduce maintenance. We do some wetting and granule salt for better activation of less spots and scatter, especially in the sidewalk areas. Dry salt with calcium chloride for cold weather temperature melting. So we do a little bit of mixture there. Some GPS-enabled controls have been implemented to upgrade our systems as well. Our ground supervisor suggested to get a hydrometer for your brine mixture that's easy to read so the old guys can see it, which I thought was good. Make sure you coat everything with lanolin oil to reduce your rusting on your equipment. And then, again, we use the calcium chloride as a mix into the brine for any low temperature applications. And then in the broader scope of things, we've been a member of the Rock River Stormwater Coalition, or I'm sorry, the Rock River Stormwater Group, which is focused on MS4 compliance. And we partner up with the coalition on a few different projects. So Elsa and I were talking a little bit about one of my interns who's a board member there. So I asked her to put a couple slides together about the coalition, some of the great work they do, which includes stream monitoring. So this is one of our main outreach programs on campus to really teach students about the impact of pollutants on local waterways. We monitor 3 different local streams once a month during the main season, but Ashley, our intern, is really into this, so she'll go out all year round. She'll go out in the middle of February and monitor streams. And it's really a great way for us to engage students on some really basic hands-on experience. And then finally, the Salt Watch program we're starting to participate in this year. This will be our first season. Ashley's going to help us monitor chloride levels in Whitewater Creek, which is our main urban creek that we have in town. And hopefully that was pretty good on time. Any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to connect you with someone that knows more of the technical details. But otherwise, thanks a lot for your attention.
All right, thank you, Wes. So I am going to take over just a couple minutes here. I'm going to put up our final poll question, and that's to ask people, what do you see as the next steps for you and your organization? Okay, and as you answer that poll, I'm just going to begin here. So unfortunately, in Wisconsin, we've kind of been normalized to expect to see a lot of salt in the winter. Right? But that salt does not actually go away. It appears to disappear, but it's all going, as Mary Jo said, into our waters. So the costs of that are really huge, as Mayor Payne noted. We also become normalized to seeing dead vegetation and dying vegetation. The cost of that in the US, that vegetation loss is over $2 billion a year. We're also doing a lot of damage to our infrastructure. With annual damage from salt over $5 billion a year. AAA estimates the damage to our vehicles to be roughly $3 billion a year. So really, while salt might seem to be kind of cheap, for every dollar that we spend on salt, we're doing $10 of damage in our communities. And that's not taking into account the damage that's being done to our water. So in Wisconsin, naturally chloride levels would be 10 milligrams per liter or less. And that chloride is infiltrating into our groundwater, which for most Wisconsinites is also our drinking water. So this data from UW Stevens Point well water viewer shows increased with this light green to the yellow to even orange and red if you dig down into the section level data, and even in rural communities and rural areas. All of this data is private well water data. We're also seeing chloride increase in our surface waters, well above that 10 milligrams, all those red, orange, and yellow dots. The yellow being even over 1,000 milligrams of chloride per liter. That's above the acute toxicity level for many aquatic organisms. So some hope though, in the Madison area after salt-wise trainings and calibration, as in the city of Cudahy, and other salt-wise practices, we're seeing 30 to 50% reductions. We're not quite Mary Jo to those 69% reductions. Those are incredible. But with those reductions in the last 5 years, we're starting to see a leveling off of chloride in the lakes around Madison, the Yahara Lakes. We're also, so Wisconsin Salt-Wise really wants to help you to be salt reduction champions. So I'm going to end the polling here. I think a few people maybe had to duck out, but we have interest in the smart salting training, which is awesome. We are offering those across the state. We've worked with partners, and in total, over 1,000 winter maintenance professionals from both cities, counties, school districts, private winter maintenance companies have attended these half-day training workshops in the last 5 years. Calibrating equipment, as Mary Jo said, is huge, right? So that's recommended in the training, but sometimes people need additional support with that. And so SaltWise is here to help you do that. We also want to help connect you with early adopters and help support that work financially, because sometimes those upgrades do have costs associated with them. So I want to be sharing the results here. So those seem to be interests for many of you as well. And then if you said other, I'd really love to have you enter into the chat, if you still have a couple minutes, what you see as next steps for your community. And then I'll be finishing up here. We want to continue as Saltwise to promote the great work, the incredible work of the salt reduction champions across the state, like with webinars like this one, case studies we have on our website, press releases, social media shout outs. We're starting to put together a map of private companies that have gone through the training. And next year in 2021, I'd love to put together an ArcGIS story map that also shows off the work of municipalities. And then finally, we're working to get the word out to the greater public, and we would love your support in that. In the interest of time, I'm going to jump to my final slide here, which is a shout out to Salt Awareness Week. So we are going to host a Salt Awareness Week for the first time in this January, and we would love to see you and have you share the word about this out through your networks to get huge numbers of people engaged and interested in salt reduction. We have a wide variety of speakers every day, and those webinars will just be very short. We're going to keep them to half an hour, only half of your lunch break maybe, each day. So those will be live streamed on YouTube. And then finally on the right, we've got a couple recent social media posts. And I would just really love to say, again, thank you so much for tuning in today. And please do not hesitate to reach out. As I said before, Saltwise really wants to be advocating for you, promoting your salt reduction work and supporting you through that. So thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to our presenters for sharing your stories today. And yeah, please reach out to me personally. I know Wes and Mary Jo both shared their contact information. And yeah, thank you. And I do see a question in the chat about a roads smart salting training. So we do not currently have any roads trainings set up for this winter. The next set right now that are scheduled to be for this fall. But if you are interested in getting your crew or kind of getting some of that material, I do have like a little 1 hour, like a short presentation that I put together with like a highlight reel version of the smart salting training. So we definitely can at least get you started.
Fantastic. Thank you, Allison, and thank you to Wes and Mary Jo and Mayor Payne for excellent presentations. Now we do have a little bit of time for folks to submit questions in the chat. Allison, you mentioned you had seen one.
Yeah, that was just sent to me privately.
Okay, excellent. So folks, if you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the chats now. We also do record all Sustainable Strategies webinars, so we will be making this webinar available, and we'll send that link out to folks who attended, along with a presentation certificate for continuing education credits. So you may expect that in the following week. And thank you again to all who really spent their lunch hour with us. And again, a fantastic resource. We hope you're able to share this out with your communities and neighboring communities and get in touch with Allison if you would be interested in furthering your kind of salt reduction strategy in your community. I do see a question here coming in, and thank you to Larry for submitting it. We got a question: how often should salting equipment get calibrated per season?
Mary Jo, do you want to jump on that one?
Sure, I'll jump on it. Actually, the one slide alludes to the fact that your superintendents or whatever need to see if there's like a sensor going out, because you know that could mean calibrations off. But normally we will calibrate once to twice a year. But sometimes more often. So it's definitely before the start of the season in November and early December, and then maybe once during the season.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Sure.
Mary Jo, it looks like we have a follow-up question for you. What positions in city, town, county, and state governments are most important to convince/engage to get action, and where do we start with this messaging?
I have to be politically correct here. It's you know, I go around with my phone. My phone is, so I have a lot of pictures. And I hate to say it, I have a lot of pictures of people who have taken the, have taken the classes. And that's why I say, are you taking the classes because you want to check the box off at MS4? Or are you going back and you're actually want to implement these things? And I have a file, a folder of all these pictures of these communities that have done this. But in the Milwaukee area, it has to be Milwaukee County. It has to be Waukesha County. They have to work, and I work with their Milwaukee County, I work with their environmental engineers, but they have little to no impact on their DPW department. And I don't know how many times I come, and granted, salting for an urban community is a little bit different than salting the interstate highways. But it's all the same. You drive behind a salt truck, and my car should not get being pinged by salt pellets. Your calibration is wrong. So I believe in Milwaukee and probably across the state, it should start with the counties, and because they have more resources, and then down to your communities. And that's where I see it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mary Jo.
Sure.
Looking out to the chat, I believe we have time for one more question. If folks have any more, please feel free to submit them. Again, I would just like to thank our presenters today. A fantastic resource, and we're really glad that we'll have all this information recorded and make it available in the coming week. So I am seeing no more questions. If folks do have one, feel free to unmute or raise your hand or submit it in the chat box this last minute. Otherwise, again, thank you all for attending and spending your lunch hour with us. The Sustainable Strategies webinar series will reconvene in 2021, with our first webinar being in March 18th, and that will be on DNR grants and loans. So we hope you can join us, and thank you to those who attended multiple webinars this year. We really appreciate your time and interest. With that being said, thank you everybody, and I hope you all have a fantastic holiday season. Take care.